Okay, good afternoon. We are back. I'm just waiting for my panelists to join me. I have three distinguished panelists. I really quite excited to welcome all of them. I'm just waiting for them to show up. I can't see them on the screen. I'm just waiting for them. Norhan, Afiko, and Nurulayn. If please, can you please? I am waiting to see you all. Okay, I have Nurulayn. Nurulayn, thank you very, very much coming on board. And I very much appreciate you making the efforts. And I think it's quite early in Canada now, right? Or what time is in Canada now?
It's about 1:30 p.m.
So thank you very much for waking up early, for probably having taken your lunch. Now, Nurulayn, thank you very much. This panel is going to be about the US. And we have three young, interestingly, coincidentally, we didn't mean to have it, all of them lawyers. They're all law students, and they're all doing their master's degree. We have a third panelist who is already graduating. So this panel is about the perspective of the young generations. And we're very pleased to have three. We have Nurulayn from Canada. She's joining us now. She's doing her master. You are pursuing your master right now, right?
No, it's actually a Juris Doctorate degree, so postgraduate.
And you're going to be specializing on human rights, right?
Yes, that's the whole.
So Nurulayn, I will give you the floor. The floor is yours, and talk to us. Give us your perspective from different dimensions. So the first dimension, I think, as a young, how do you see this? And also about someone who migrated. I believe are you born in Canada or you went younger to Canada?
I was born in Sweden.
So you're born in Sweden, that's even better. So you have a mix of living in different parts of the world. So if you tell us also your feeling about what is going on, and then in your 5 minutes, then I will come back to you. So the floor is yours, Nurulayn. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Alam, for giving us this wonderful opportunity to share our knowledge and our insight. As you've said, I've definitely traveled a lot. I was born in Sweden. I moved to Canada, and then I moved to Oman, the United Arab Emirates, and then I came back. So I've definitely seen different sides of this this problem, and it's present on a global scale, not only in the Western society, but it's definitely important for us to focus on the Western society, considering everything that's going on right now. It is unfortunate that we had to witness a series of tragic events for such a discussion to occur on a global scale. At the grassroots level, I know that there are always people advocating for the rights of ethnic minorities in the Western society, but today we have the world protesting and voicing their support for the rights of our Black brothers and sisters, and this is amazing. I feel like this should have been going on for a very long time. It's only now coming to the surface. So today I wanted to look at this topic from the angle of systemic or institutional racism, which I'm sure you all must have heard in the past few days through articles, blog posts, and such. Excuse me. So systemic or institutional racism may be defined as discrimination based on race, expressed through social and political institutions such as education, employment, and an important one, which is very prominent right now, being the justice system. So being an ethnic minority in the Western society, I can speak on behalf of this. One is often subject to accounts of microaggressions, and this is a term I wanted to focus on today because it is at the heart of the situation. It is at the heart of racism. So microaggression was a term coined by Chester M. Pearson, a Harvard University professor, to describe the mistreatment he witnessed against Black individuals. So this is a term that it's defined. It is basically subtle acts of racism, so known as negative behavior towards a person being normalized. It can be on a day-to-day basis, like the smallest interaction between a teacher, an exchange between a teacher and a student, or a cashier and a customer. An example that I can give that perhaps many of you living in the Western society, being of an ethnic minority, can relate to, if someone were to ask you, oh, where are you from? And you tell them, oh yeah, I'm from Canada, or I'm from the United States of America, and they see the color of your skin, or they read your name and they say, no, where are you actually from? And that gives you sort of a feeling of displacement. Like, oh, where am I from? sort of an identity crisis. So this is a small example of a microaggression. And so subtle acts of racism, these microaggressions essentially target marginalized groups. And this is present on a societal, political level, affecting our lives, affecting people's lives every day, making them feel as a secondary citizen. So racism basically builds its foundation through these microaggressions, and oftentimes it develops into violent and overt acts of discrimination, such as the police brutality that occurred and continues to occur today. And the solidarity we're now witnessing does prove that people are aware of mistreatment that Black individuals have been subject to. This definitely has been ongoing. And again, as I've mentioned before, it's only now beginning to surface and come to the forefront. So we must understand how racism is produced and reproduced in order to voice ourselves against this, in order to fight against this. Again, as previous discussion individuals have mentioned, we have to learn about our history. We have to learn about the different aspects of racism, how they come about, how they affect different people in different institutions. So again, we must understand how racism is produced in order for us to fight for the restructure of a more inclusive society, one where everyone has a voice, one where everyone is seen and understood, everyone is acknowledged, and specifically nobody is left behind. And I just wanted to sort of end with a quote by Nelson Mandela, as he said, "No person is born hating another because of the color of his skin, his background, or his religion. People learn to hate, and if they learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes naturally to the human heart than its opposite." From this, we can learn that one can only be socially conditioned to be racist. And at this point in time, we need to deconstruct the already existent ideology about the human race and promote discussion to open minds in a safe space such as we're doing now. We must also focus on the future generations to come and learn how to foster a positive and inclusive environment, such as I'd mentioned earlier, one where no one is left behind. Thank you.
Now, thank you very much, Nurulayn. Very, very good, the start of this panel on the perspective of this. But let me ask you a question. As I said, I will bring people back again, but I would like to ask you a question because you are a lawyer, and I know the others are also lawyers. But given what you have said, do you think, I know the law has to be there, and by the law we respect each other, but do you really see we have been globally, as a young girl, really, are we supposed to be treating each other better because the law is saying that? It has to come from our heart. It has to come from our belief. Yes. To what extent do you think we are drifted? We are putting more laws to how to treat women, how to treat Black, how to not to discriminate, and so on. Because we have many problems, not just Black and white. To what extent, from your law background, do you think we've been drifted from the meaningful of working together rather than the law?
Yes, so sorry, just to clarify, I'm a law student. I still have 3 years left to become a lawyer. But I definitely do agree with you that these are values we are supposed to have as an individual. Basic human values, core values, respect, trusting one another, just basic humanity. But some of these are codified in the laws. So the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, for example. In Canada, we have the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And even though its place is codified in the laws, because this systematic or the systemic institutional racism is so deep-rooted in the society, it's also deep-rooted within the legal system, which is reflected by the police brutality within North America, within the United States of America. So I do believe that the conversation, the problem, the root of the situation lies within this, in like on a societal level. And so once that conversation gets going, that vehicle of change, once that begins moving, it'll start touching on different aspects of the society, one including the legal aspect.
Okay, Nurulayn, thank you very much. Thank you very, very much for staying there. Stay with us. Let me bring the other 2 panelists, and then we will open the discussion for the 3 of you. I'm going to introduce my second panelist on the youth, and I hope also Afiko from Nigeria will be able to join us shortly. Now we can see you and we can hear. I think we should be able to hear you. Norhan, or publicly known here in London as Nabta. Norhan, you are a law student and you are young, and you are an activist. I have seen you campaigning. I have seen you involved in leading students or youngest organizations. You are a law student and you are doing your master also in the law. Now, I don't know if you have heard Nurulayn's perspective earlier. She has lots of similarities with you, the same, more or less the same age, more or less doing the same stuff. But she's more now. I believe you're born in the UK, and this issue you have been through it in several times because you're in London. You have seen many. Now I give you 5 minutes to give us your perspective, and then we will bring the other bunnies into the talk. So the floor is yours, Norhan now, or Nabta, whatever you like.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, my topic is going to be mainly about police brutality. Of course, everyone has seen what's been going on in the US with George Floyd. So I'm going to compare the situation in the US to the situation in the UK. So I'm just going to briefly go back to 1969. Where a man called David Oluwale, he was the first Black person to have died in police custody as a result of police racism. So he was beat with truncheons and then he was thrown into a river in Leeds, and 2 weeks later his lifeless body was pulled out of the river. There are many other victims, such as in 2016, a woman named Sarah Reed, a 32-year-old woman with mental health issues. It was reported that she was sexually assaulted by police officers. She was also beaten up by a police officer in 2012, and the attack was actually caught on camera. We have Sheku Bayo, 2015, a British Sierra Leonean man who worked for British Gas and had 2 young children, who lived in Fife in Scotland. He was actually detained, handcuffed, pepper sprayed, put in leg restraints, and he died. The post-mortem evidence suggested that he died of positional asphyxia after being pinned to the ground by 4 police officers. So those are just 2 of the many examples of victims who have been subject to police brutality. More recently, we have Belly Muyinga, who was a railway worker, and it was there is evidence to suggest that she was spat at by someone who had coronavirus, and she died a few days later in hospital. And the police did not want to take her case any further. They actually closed her case. It's only now that Sadiq Khan has actually spoken out and reopened the case due to public outcry. So we also have, I just wanted to mention also white privilege, and how the case of Madeleine McCann, for example, that case has been open for years and millions have been spent on that case, whereas the police in the UK are reluctant to pursue cases involving Black people. Another thing I wanted to touch on is, due to all the protests that are happening now, I wanted to make sure that the youth know, Black youth especially, know what to do when stopped by the police, because not many people know their rights. So I just wanted to highlight that. The police powers are as follows. If you're stopped by the police, they might ask you what your name is, what you're doing, where you're going. You don't have to answer any of those questions. None of those questions need to be answered. If there is no reason for a police officer to suspect you, then you don't need to answer any of those questions. A police officer has powers to stop and search you only if they have reasonable grounds to do so. That's only if they believe you're carrying illegal drugs, a weapon, something stolen, something that could be used to commit crime. And you can only be searched on the basis of reasonable grounds if it's been approved by a senior police officer. So if there isn't a senior police officer available, then they don't have the right to stop and search you. Before you're searched, the police officer must state their name and the police station that they come from, and the reason they want to search you and why they are legally allowed to search you. They do have the power to remove your clothing if it gets to a stage where they do have reasonable grounds to search you. But if you're a female, if you wear a veil, if you wear a hijab, then you have the right to ask for, they can't legally search you if it's not a female. So yeah, those are basically the main things that I wanted to touch upon, and I just wanted to make sure that the Black youth out there know what their rights are and know what to say and know what to do and what not to do when stopped by the police. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, Norhan, thank you very much. This is very good, and we also have, this is very good to have the perspective from the UK. Now I will bring Nurulayn shortly. And as I said, there's lots of similarities between both of you. We didn't intend to bring people up. We tried to bring diverse backgrounds, but it's good it happened. Now, you mentioned about what the police can do, what their rights, what they're not right. So if I ask you as a law student, this is you're doing the master now, do you think we, the public in the UK and maybe across the world, do we really know our rights? If the police now on the street stop anyone of us, as a public, do you think we are educated enough? And we're talking about the UK, where the education level is very high. Do you think we are educated enough to understand what is our right, not our right, what to stop? I mean, we have seen that videos across the whole world from America and others, where people, they know their right, they will challenge the police. They ask them to show them the evidence and so on. Do you think we are educated enough in this country, or maybe across other parts of the world, in terms of knowing what's our right, when it happens, we can stop it? Do we have the power to record it or not? Do you think we are educated enough?
In the UK, no. The UK does not have a written constitution. The rules are not written out in comparison to the US, where they have a written constitution. Everything is simplified into a document. For example, they have the amendments. Everyone can look at those amendments and they automatically know what their rights are. With the UK, it's complicated. We rely heavily on case law. We rely heavily on different types of laws, and it's all different. For example, in the US, the Second Amendment allows people to bear arms, so it makes having guns legal. That's one of the things that we don't have here in the UK. Another thing, the 13th Amendment in the US, I think it abolishes slavery, but it also mentions that slavery can be reintroduced in a situation where a crime has been committed. So in a way, in the US, slavery has never really been abolished. I mean, everything's written out and a lot of people have been arguing against it, but we see in the US, even in prisons, they've brought in this amendment and introduced it into prison labor. And you see in American prisons that it's usually Black prisoners who are always subject to laboring and things like that because of that amendment.
Now, Norhan, thank you. Another question quickly. I asked this question earlier and I will keep asking because we feel very proud of being British in a country where two of the most senior people are from ethnic minority. To what extent do you feel? Some people earlier, they said, yes, there's good progress in terms of equality and so on, not only just for Black and ethnic minorities, but we have moved quite well, but we're still too short and we have to have representation. Nurulayn said that in Canada. To what is your feeling? You are a woman and you see the Home Secretary is a woman from ethnic minority. It's a plus equality, if you like, women and from ethnic minority. Our Home Office or our, the third person say in government is from an ethnic minority or Black and ethnic minority group, as they classify us, and she's a woman. Does that let you feel you are proud of the Britishness, if you like, or you proud of your country, or do you feel still the same like other people earlier said, we still have a long way to go? And then you have the argument, okay, but we have done a lot. I mean, Boris Johnson will say to you, I have done as much as possible. My second and third person, my next door neighbor is from an ethnic minority. What can you say? What is your perspective?
I think we're nowhere near where we need to be. I think the fact that there are 3 people in government who represent ethnic minorities is in no way a representation of where we should be at the moment. If you look at companies, brands, employees, if you compare the number of white people to the number of black people or anyone from an ethnic minority, you can see the difference is really big. Even in jobs, women are paid much less than men, black women especially. A black person is much less likely to get a job than a white person. I just think we're nowhere near where we need to be. Some progress is being made, but not as much as the progress that should be made.
Okay, good. Thank you, Nurulayn. You have listened. Did you hear what Norhan had to say?
Yes.
Okay, Nurulayn, you are in Canada. Canada and the UK are considered of the 2 advanced countries, not the most, but we are in the top gear of welfare, of human capital and everything. Mm-hmm. Now, how can we accelerate, from your perspective? You are in Ottawa, one of the best universities. How can we accelerate this progress? Norhan said very slow, and not as we should be. Earlier, 2 experts on education said we're still far behind. How can we accelerate this progress rate so we don't have another person to be killed or die because of mistake of someone have still a misunderstanding?
Going back to your previous question, I do believe that people of our communities need to be more knowledgeable about their rights. So coming from different countries, coming from the African continent, coming from the South Asian continent, the laws, the regulations are different there. And so coming to, for example, the United Kingdom, coming to Canada, an individual won't be aware of the rights they have. And so I think there has to be a better job of sort of disseminating or teaching immigrant communities about their rights, whether it's, when you have a confrontation with the police, what rights do you have, or going to court, anything in the judicial process, learning, having sort of just a basic idea. You shouldn't have to be within the field in order to know this stuff. And I know that they do have programs here for immigrants who, language, learning English, learning about the society, the multicultural society, how to integrate themselves. But I think knowing one's legal rights would definitely help with the process of change.
Okay, quickly, this is another question came. He said, from Omar said, what is your future prospect regarding racism towards ethnic minority all over the world? Norhan. So I will ask you a question quickly because of the time. Norhan, what do you think? Racism towards ethnic minority all over the world. I mean, what is your future prospect? Do you expect it to increase, to decrease? What do you expect it?
One would hope that it decreases, but it's difficult to say. It's such a broad question. Different countries react differently to racism. I feel as though in the US is one of the most racist countries in the world. And I feel like that would probably be the slowest country in terms of overcoming racism. Even with everything that's going on now, all the protests, everyone's showing solidarity. There is so much racism inherently ingrained in the laws of the country, and everyone who, not everyone, but most of the people who work in Congress, it's just so deeply ingrained. I feel as though we would need another generation for it to improve. In other countries, I feel it could happen faster, but not anytime soon.
Okay, one maybe last question. You can share it. Thank you, Norhan. Just you can share it. And this is again from your US perspective. You are young, I don't know what you call it, immigrant or from Black and ethnic minority living in Canada or in the UK. Nurulayn, in Canada, for example, where there is lots of, it's a country of immigrants. People apply to go there, so it should be more comfortable accepting. People have praised in some reports your prime minister. In some places, he's been praised for being accommodating and engaging and so on. Now, because one of his ministers, I think the Minister of Immigration in Canada, which came with the Prime Minister, is from Somalia origin. I think so. Now, there was a question earlier, also this for you, Norhan. It says about us, the immigrants, we need to integrate. It's not just about the law. And the question by Joseph earlier, he said, the Somali community in the United Kingdom, they came here like 100 years ago, but still have failed to integrate well. This is not applied to Somali, but he gave it as an example, I would assume, because they have been here a long time ago. Canada is a country of immigrants. Do you see the immigrants themselves have done their part of the integration in terms of engaging with the community, with white and non-white? Do you think in Canada, for example, your own country now, do you think they are integrating, or do you agree that we are not integrating? Therefore, we will not help others to understand us better. What do you think?
I think they've done an excellent job of integrating. It's a matter of being welcomed to be able to integrate. I definitely do see a sort of separation within communities, different. Individuals often coming from a different country, you do want to keep together with your people, you know, just to stay close to your roots, to your culture, to your religion. But I do see that sort of attempt to integrate into the society. But again, as I mentioned earlier, no matter how much one tries, if the other side is not receiving that message, or if they're not reciprocating, there's no way for the entire process to evolve or to continue. So again, it's like a two-sided thing.
Okay, so if I let you finish this conversation, Norhan, very good point. Nurulayn said to you, the ethnic minorities, Somalis, Sudanese, Nigerian, they want to stay close to each other of their culture and so on and so on. To what extent, what is your suggestions to communities, Somalis, Sudanese, Syrian, whatever it is? Do you agree they have to do a little bit more to get out of their cultural closeness, like Nurulayn said, to be more open, to accommodate, to engage with the not even, I think in some reports I have read, immigration has become a very important topic in universities now. In some reports I have said, even these communities, they are not even engaging with other communities from Black and ethnic minorities. So Somalia are not integrating or not even opening up for other Nigerians, Ghanaian. So can you give some advice, recommendation from your London experience?
I would say that, yes, people need to be more open to integrating. The two can be mutually exclusive. You can keep your culture and your traditions and your values and your community, but still you live in a country where you'd like people to accept you. Therefore, the best option would be to be more open and to embrace other people's culture as well. And that needs to happen, like Nurulayn said, on both sides. The people here need to embrace immigrant culture, and immigrants need to embrace the British culture in order for there to be a balanced society and a multicultural society. I do think that some cultures are not there yet, but yeah, overall, ultimately, I think that there should be more openness and more open-mindedness. So yeah. Okay,
so I will have to thank you so much for both of you, Nurulayn from Canada, law, you're going to be a doctor of law, right? That's what you said. Nurulayn from Ottawa, and Norhan or Nepta from London here. They're both law students, or they're doing their postgraduates. Thank you very much for your time. I know we appreciate it very much. And the same like with other panelists, we're going to continue our discussion on this topic. We have the health. I can see them ready now to go. We will continue. Please keep watching us. And if you pick any point at some point, at the end, we're going to open it up. You come back, we will give you the floor again. If you can see any burning point, even not necessarily from the US perspective, but from other perspectives. So thank you very much, and well done, and we will see you again. Thank you very much.
So please remember, if we all help and do a little bit, it will make a big difference.